Hello. It's time for number 3 in the full track teardowns from my album Crikey. And I've decided to do the title track from Yikes when it came out 10 years ago. Now, apart from getting it a lot clearer this time in terms of the mix down, getting it more 3D instead of 2D, I've slightly changed the structure because 10 years ago it had a kind of fairly ambient beginning, and drums didn't come in until it dropped. Now what I've done is to put the drums on the intro. It just sounds better to me. Now the drums are mainly, they're kind of based around the Amen, with some bells and whistles. But before we get to the drums, I want to just tell you about how this tune started. It started with a kind of heavy metal riff that I was playing around with, and I actually recorded years ago but didn't know what to do with. And certainly when it came to drum and bass, I thought, nah, I'm never gonna be able to use that. But anyway, I sped it up a bit. This is the riff dry, but it's kind of really cut up. Sounds like this. Let's get one that isn't quite so filtered. Obviously that's got a filter going and a flanger. Then I put the riff through one of my favourite filter plugins, which is called the Bi-Filter, and you can't get it anymore on 64-bit. But using DDMF, which is they're a lovely company. They do a meta plugin, which is really good for building your kind of own plugins. But they also do an app. Well, it's a plugin utility that converts old 32-bit plugins into a 64-bit plugin. Makes them slightly clunky, but it does work. Here's the Bi-Filter, and this is called the Bi-Filter 2 DDMF bridge. That shows that it's been bridged by DDMF. And this is the filter. It may not look much, but what I love about it, it's got all these different types of filters. Loads, absolutely loads. And you can play around obviously with the frequency, with the resonance, and you can do all sorts. You can make your own and save it as a drive for distortion, but it's a brilliant filter actually. I love it. So I put that onto that kind of guitar riff, and this is the result. That's the basis of this tune really. Now, the only thing you can hear, it's actually got like a notch filter, so it kind of carves out the middle, and I'm scanning that across the frequencies, which gives it that really kind of nice fat sound, that kind of metally fat sound. So yeah, that was my starting point. Actually, the original version was really shit, because I thought, yeah, I want to make this a big Amen tune. How can I make a big Amen tune that's different? Okay, I know. I'll have a vicar saying the Lord's Prayer, and when it gets to the end, Amen, or Amen as it is in English, then the Amen break's going to come in. It'll be amazing. It was rubbish. So yeah, I went back to the drawing board. I did end up using the Amen, but not in a kind of really like, this is an Amen, just more kind of like, yeah, okay, that's an Amen. So from the beginning, I've got the drums in, and we get this nice kind of intro vibe. Now that's the comped and rendered Amen track. Obviously a lot went into that before I rendered it, and basically, like I do with my breaks, I split it out across 3 tracks, and cut it visually and listening to it, so that I've only got the kicks on one track, I've only got the snares on another track, and I've got the body of the break on the 3rd track. The body is compressed and then side chained to the kick and the snare. The idea of that is that you get the punch on the kick and the snare, but you get the atmosphere from the body, and it's not clashing with the kick and the snare when they come through. And what I actually did was, on the kick and the snare channels tracks, as an insert, I put the SPL drum replacer, which I love using, because it means that you can introduce another sample, and it's better than actually just putting the sample across the page, because it reads the velocity, the transients, the ghosts of the existing snare, and it imparts those to the new sample that you've put in. So if you find the right sample, then you can mix the 2 in the plugin. You can change the pitch and everything. You can do the envelope, and you can get it really, really nice, just right. Same with the kick, because the Amen kick it sort of hasn't got a lot in there in terms of bottom end. So I like to mix in maybe like a 909 or something like that, or a Pearl drum machine kick, just what sounds best. And as well as the Amen, I've also got this. Slightly weird, isn't it? That's just for extra atmosphere, to make it more interesting. When the drums are actually all in, I've got them all in a folder, so that means I can solo just the drums easily enough. I like the folders on Cubase; they're very, very useful, and you can just close it if you want more real estate on the screen. Anyway, the drums all together, they sound like this. And what else have we got? Yeah, as I said, we have got the reinforcement kick, and I do like to get a frequency that gets me in the chest, just there, the solar plexus, with kick drums. Otherwise it's, I don't know, to me it doesn't quite do it. Reinforcement snare drum. Which follows the Amen snare, so the kick and the snare in the Amen. Like that, and that's most of it. I think, yeah, I've got a think break coming in a bit later. Let's have a look. Here we go. Yeah, and I was really getting those shouts to be a bit louder because they're fun. Okay, and got the usual kind of like, I do like my crashes. Yeah, I've got crashes here, and also the stop kicks. These can be a bit of a cliche sometimes, but in a tune like this, they're not cliche for me because I hardly ever use them. So by a stop kick, I mean one of these. Nice bit of flange on it, and with the cymbal you can have a nice sort of like, here we go. And it's quite useful in a breakdown if you want to have some reverse ones of those. That's nice, like this. context for that is this bit. It just gives it a little kind of energy and a false sort of break. Like so. Right, the other main thematic component is this strange kind of vocal echo that I've got going on. Now, I did vocal. I'm too high. Feels so good. Obviously, I get a Pulitzer Prize for the lyrics on that because they are really original, outstanding. But what I did, after I recorded them, and I put them in the Cubase have got a kind of auto-tune thing, which actually was very effective for this, very quick and easy. It's called Pitch Correct, and it looks like that. And it's quite good because you can sort of say what key you want it in. If you want it chromatic or internal, and the tolerance, transposing it. I think I've transposed it an octave probably. And you can preserve the formants, or you can shift them with the correction. The formants it's kind of like the harmonics of a voice, but it's also like the shape of the mouth, really. It's hard to describe, but do play around with them. All pitch changing software, I think, these days has formants. And anyway, so I got the vocal at the right pitch. I put it through a delay and a reverb. Then I thought it'd be really fun to actually freeze that delay on the last syllable. I'm too high. Panning. Yeah, so I really played around with that that kind of delay texture in the tune, and I matched it with the piano. It's doing this kind of, on the intro it's just doing this one note thing. Octaves, and the chords come in. And I've got this through my favourite of all time tape emulator plugin, and I've got a few. I've got the Waves ones and stuff, but this is the one. UHE is the company, love them. This is called the Satin, and it's brilliant. And it goes beyond just emulating a tape recorder. It does the things that tape recorders can do, like delay and flange. And this flange is fucking gorgeous. That. And what effects have we got on? Okay, put it through the unfilter. The unfilter is a very new plugin for me, and it's actually, I love it because it magically seeks out nasty resonances that you might take ages to locate, and it automatically kind of removes them, but in a dynamic way, so it's not all the time. It's not like plonking an EQ on it. So without it, And now it's quite subtle, but it does, for me, it does quite a lot. There's a muddy sort of low mid resonance peak there that was kind of annoying, and I might have actually burnt the reverb onto this, I think. I'm not sure. Then we got these pads that go the bass. What's doing the bass line? It's fairly simple actually. It's following the guitar riff. Supplying the sub is our friend the 808. Kind of overdriving and stuff, but it sounds good in the track. What have I got on the subgroup? All I've got is Renaissance bass. Holding its own after all these years. It's a really, really good bass harmonic plug-in. So that's without. It's cleaner without, but it doesn't fill the space as much. Now I'm adding 52 hertz on there because that's what I decided sounded the best, but you can go from 256 down to 32 depending on what harmonic you want to actually introduce. Now 808s, quick word about 808 samples. There are hundreds of thousands of 808 samples out there. It's very, very important that you don't just use the first one that you find, because it won't be much good. You've got to be very discerning, be patient, and trawl through hundreds, if not thousands, of 808s. Try them out, and you will find one or maybe a few particular 808 samples that really work for you, and you can make them your own. This 808 sample is the same 808 sample that I use on almost every tune I've ever used an 808 on, which is quite a lot. So Electricity Will Keep Me Warm on this album, that's got this sample. It's just, for me, it just sounds gorgeous, and it just dies away the right length, and it holds its tuning. Sometimes with 808s, because they're not statically tuned, they kind of go sometimes it can be quite hard to pinpoint the fundamental frequency, and if that's a problem in a tune, what I do after I've written the whole bass track, I'll put it through Melodyne, which is a pitch editor. Maybe I should do another session just on Melodyne because it can do so much, but I put my 808 through Melodyne and literally just kind of drag it and equalize the pitch a little bit. If it's a tune that is very, very pitch and harmonic dependent, I'll do that. If it's more of a jungly tune where you've got a lot more flexibility and leeway, then it's good to let the 808 be its random self, I think. I've got reinforcement, which obviously it says massive basement. I think there's a preset on massive called basement. And as you can see, I've rolled off the subs to make room for the 808, and together, very simple. And that's it. That's the tune. It really is. That is the tune. Very, very simple, quite straightforward track, which isn't something I normally do, so I'm quite pleased. And what I've got on the output bus, I don't think there's any surprises. No. So I've got my beloved Marg EQ4, which I think is the sweetest sounding EQ for an output bus. I mean, horses for courses, you know. You use whatever you make work for you. And I've got my Ozone 9 maximizer, set to modern, character 1.25, stereo independence all the way up, transients on 100. I had to really take the input down because I was making everything too loud, and I guess at that time I couldn't really be bothered to group all the subgroups together and pull them down. So I just pulled down the input into the ozone, and then I've got, it's turned off now because I've finished it, but I've got the Magic AB that I talked about in Meteorites, so I can actually compare this mix with the original mix and make sure that I'm working on the elements that I wanted to work on, and that I don't disappear down a rabbit hole, which is very, very easy to do when you're mixing. I just noticed, can you see that there is a very low frequency sub noise floor? How dare there be? And it's coming through on the burnt piano track. Can that be Unfiltered's fault? Oh look, wow, that is really noticeable there. But what's generating it? What goes into that? Where's my piano? Come on. Naughty piano. Ah, okay. You know, I put the satin on the piano. What I've neglected to do was to, because it emulates a tape recorder properly, it's got all of these things which emulate the noise and background flutter and stuff. There's wound, flutter, crosstalk, asperity and hiss. So if I also mute those, that should remove it. And let's have a look at the output bus. Clean as a baby's bottom. There we go. Right, that is Yikes, the title track from Yikes. Now a track on Crikey. Crikey came out a few days ago, and I'm getting some really lovely feedback about it. And it was something I had an idea quite late on to do. So it was only about 3 weeks ago I thought, oh, really should do that. So I did it, and I'm glad I did it. Okay, peace out. I'm looking forward to doing more of these, perhaps not on this album, but maybe just drilling down into some fundamentals. Okay, take care. Peace.